I had a dream this week and it made me think it was the perfect example to share on this channel because it really epitomizes my message around what is next for you. I'm filming on this gorgeous afternoon right by the water. You might be hearing the waves in the background, and I chose this spot because this is a very reflective video and it ties into the topic of mindset, which is a big part of this channel, along with fitness and creativity. So for those who are new here, welcome. I'm Neil. Welcome to Next with Neil, where I help you go from where you are now to where you could be. And when I had this dream earlier this week, and I'll go into the dream shortly, I thought to myself, I have to share this because it was such a unique and interesting dream, and it really made me stop and reflect, and it was all anchored in what is next for you and that question that this channel is all about. So the dream. In this dream that I had this week, which was very vivid, very real, I could see all the details, all the colors, all the sounds, all the imagery. I heard a knock at the door and I knew that someone was coming over, and I went down to open the door, and when I opened the door, there was me arriving to meet myself. So it was me meeting me. And I invited myself in and ushered myself into the dining room, and we sat down. And this dream to me really brought to life the concept of answering the question, what is next for you? And a lot of other themes that I'm going to chat through in this video, because coming face to face with yourself and really looking directly at yourself is such a critical element of thinking through where you are at in your life and what you are looking for and what you want to do next. And as you might become aware of this channel, I'm definitely in a midlife crisis, and the birth of this channel, Next with Neil, is really about this season of life that I'm in, where I'm wrestling for more meaning and more purpose and more experimentation and more transformation in all areas of my life. And for those of you who might be over 40 and who are also grappling with all those questions, this is the channel for you. So this dream to me really brought to life a concept that I started thinking about, which is, if you could come face to face with yourself in the flesh, whether it's your higher self, whether it's a version of yourself, whether it's an identical twin of yourself, and you invited them in and you sat them down at the dining room table and you offered them a cup of tea or your favorite beverage or maybe an alcoholic drink and maybe a slice of cake, what would that conversation be like? And I started to reflect on 3 questions that I think are really helpful to ask yourself when you sit down with yourself. And these 3 questions that I'll share and we'll talk through really are anchored in how to answer the question, what is next for you? And how to start teasing out what that might look like across fitness, creativity, and mindset. So the first question that I thought a lot about when I looked at myself and I sat opposite myself like a mirror is looking at myself and asking, what would I like to improve? What would I like to improve? Now, those improvements might be across varying levels. It might be across physical, it might be across emotional, it might be across mental health, it might be across financial, it might be across family and friends, it might be across career, etc. But what are the different areas that I would like to improve? And sitting opposite myself and almost an out of body experience, seeing me as an entity, as a person, and looking at myself objectively, help me consider what are the things that I really want to improve around them. So that is the first question to ask. What would you like to improve? Because by thinking through that, it'll help tease out across all those facets of your life what is next for you. Now, the second question that I thought I would ask myself if I sat right opposite myself face to face over a beautiful piping hot steaming cup of English breakfast tea with a dollop of honey and hopefully a slice of lemon iced tea cake, my absolute favorite, or maybe a pavlova or lamington, or piece of chocolate, would be, what is an audacious dream that you want to focus on? So question 2, what is an audacious dream that you want to focus on? We all have different goals and hopes and desires in life, and sometimes by the time you reach over 40, I know it can feel sometimes that you're in a routine, you are potentially stuck on autopilot, you have probably achieved a lot of the things that you might have wanted to have achieved in your life, whether that's career, whether that's family, whether that's relationships, whether that's travel, etc., etc. And I bet though that there are other dreams that you might have pushed to the side, that you might have forgotten about, that you might have thought were too difficult to achieve and to go for. So it really made me think about sitting down with myself and asking the question, what is an audacious dream you want to achieve? And then the third question I'd ask myself, which ties into both question 1 and question 2, is what are the small actions that I can start taking, that you can start taking, to help make 1 and 2 a reality? What are the small steps? Because a big part of this channel about what you'll see is taking practical steps, taking action, helping you go from where you are now to where you could be. And I started thinking about what are those 3 small steps. So to recap on the question and add a bit more color to it, in answering the first question for myself, what are some improvements I'd love to make? And while I'm talking through this, you might be thinking of your own situation and what you want to do next, or what you hope to achieve, etc. So in answering the first question of what are some improvements about myself I'd like to make, I started thinking a lot about fitness, and that fitness for me is a real area of my life that gives me a lot of joy, and that is not only about the physical but about the mental, and about how it makes me feel, how skipping makes me feel free, how it makes me feel alive, how about getting stronger in my body through weight training helps me achieve more things, helps with my confidence, helps with my strength of character, and helps me do all the things that I want to do now that I'm in this season of life that is over 40. So those were a couple of the things that I thought about around what are the things I want to improve. And then also thinking about how I do need to be kinder to myself. And if possible, a little less harsh. I do put a lot of pressure on myself. You might too. I'd be interested to hear in the comments. So that was question 1. And there's plenty more that I thought about that I'll share in other videos coming up and other topics. Question number 2, around what is an audacious dream that I still have? And you might be thinking of, in your own situation, what is a audacious, gigantic, bold dream that you really want to achieve? It has to be something you really want to achieve, because to make it happen, you have to have that spark and that energy in you that you really want that to become a reality. So for me, it is building a YouTube channel. It's something that I've wanted to do for many years, and it is a big audacious dream for me. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of grit, and it takes a lot of determination, but an audacious dream of mine is building a YouTube channel to over 100,000 subscribers. And I know I'm at the very, very beginning of that journey, and I hope one day that I can look back on this video and I can say that that conviction to that audacious dream was the starting point and was the seed in then making it happen. So that is the audacious dream. What is your audacious dream? What is one big dream that you haven't achieved yet, but that is something that you are passionate about, and that is something next for you? What is next for you with a big, audacious dream? And then answering the third question in my situation around what are the small steps that I can take to help answer number 1 and 2. On a practical level, in answering number 1, with fitness, it has been starting to incorporate fitness in my life, incorporating the skipping, incorporating the weight training, starting to weave that in more as a daily practice rather than a one-off and then a set and forget approach. So that has definitely been something that I've been working very hard at doing. The part about being less harsh on myself, or as cliche as it may sound, loving myself more, flaws and all, is a work in progress, right? I'm keen to hear what you've been through and your own experiences and any tips that you might like to share of what's worked for you. For me, that's definitely a work in progress around being less harsh on myself and recognizing how far I've come on certain topics and certain journeys and certain challenges that I've had myself that have brought me to this point, and recognizing the strength of character and resilience in that. And the small steps in answering number 2 around that big audacious goal of YouTube reaching 100,000 subscribers and more, and that plaque and community and connecting with people, is starting as I'm doing today on this beautiful afternoon by the water. I can reflect on this topic from a mindset perspective. So chipping away, committing to the process and taking those steps. So in this video, I ask you those same 3 questions. And in terms of what's next after this video, as a practical step that I like to include in all my videos, is what is next for you? What can you take away from this video? And the practical example would be is to visualize sitting down with yourself and what that would look like. Would it be at home? Would it be at a park? Would it be at an art gallery? Or would it be at the beach? Would it be out at the shops? Would it be a beautiful restaurant? Taking yourself out for dinner or dessert? And what would that conversation be like in coming face to face with yourself, like a mirror, and genuinely asking yourself those 3 questions around what are some improvements you want to make? What is a big audacious goal for yourself that you'd still like to achieve? And what are some of the small steps that you can do to make that happen? I'd love to hear where you're at in that process. I'd love to hear what you think about this exercise, whether you've had any similar dreams or exercises that you've played around with in the past to do with this. And I'm keen to hear your experiences as you go from where you are now to where you could be. So thank you so much if you stayed this long. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for all your support on this channel. If you're keen to hear more topics around fitness, creativity and mindset, then please subscribe. And I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will chat soon.